Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the next 20 or 25 minutes. My name is Darren Davis, co-founder of Presario Ventures, and Tom Burns,
Howdy.
co-founder of Presario Ventures. We wanted to spend the next 20 minutes or so with you, talking to you about an investment opportunity we have coming up this month. It's in the hotel multifamily hybrid, and you may or may not have heard of this, but extended stay hotels, which are really acting more like multifamily or workforce housing. It's something we've been tracking for a couple of years. In fact, we looked at it 2 years ago. We looked at it a year ago. We kind of watched the performance. We watched the portfolio. And I think we've made a well-educated decision to move forward with this investment on behalf of our investors and ourselves. So, kind of before we get started, let's talk about why we did it and why we did it for the investors. I mean, there were some key factors. So I'll let you get it started. And I've got my list here as well.
You bet. So y'all might be looking at us thinking, y'all are multifamily developers. Why are you going off into some other asset class? Well, first, this is not really going off into another asset class. This is very much just an expansion of what we do. We really like this. And I think that as a company, we do need to be nimble and be watching what we can do to bring our investors more value and diversify our portfolios and try to avoid some of the headwinds that the potential coming recession might give us. So we like this, and we'll explain why we like it as we go along. And some of the things that I wanted to start with is that this is essentially workforce housing. This is limited workforce housing. It's affordable, and there are a lot of people that use this type of product. If we're heading into recession, it's nice to have something that sits for the workforce and can work for them. Also, the government just did a big spending bill. A lot of infrastructure. They are going to be sending out workers on temporary assignments. Those are the people that are going to be staying in our properties. So that's just a couple of reasons why I like it. I have some more, but I'm going to let Darren talk a little bit.
Yeah, and something else that we heard from our investors, and we really try to listen to what you guys are looking for. But one of the key things is, hey, have you guys diversified into any other asset types? And we're tracking them, we're looking at them. But one of the other things we heard was cash flow. Now, granted, we love cash flow just like you do, but we took some money off the table the last few years. But we're also in a position right now that we think cash flow is going to be very important moving forward for the next 2 to 5 years. So we've spent literally the last 2 to 3 years looking for assets that made sense for cash flow. And this is one that we believe does, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But something else that two things that I want to point out that I was not aware of. And when I first looked at this portfolio a couple of years ago, I had no idea that people stayed in an extended stay for weeks, months. Okay. When I've stayed at them for volleyball tournaments and lacrosse tournaments, it's 3-day weekend, right. Because it's affordable and it's quick. And I thought it was just like an affordable hotel. But you're seeing the workforce. I mean, this is workforce housing, staying in this thing. And we'll talk about some numbers a bit later, but 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Or more. And then as I started looking into it a little bit more, when I saw that Blackstone and Starwood had committed $6 billion to this asset a couple of years ago, I said, there's something behind this. Right. There's a lot of research that's gone into this, a lot of data. And that got me real excited about this.
So let's expand on Darren's cash flow and length of stay. Many of you know I started my life as a physician, and we had what's called travelers that would come into the operating room. Those are nurses, operating room or on the floors. Nurses, techs, people like that come for 3-month contracts, sometimes 6-month contracts. Guess where they stay? Extended stay hotels. They want somewhat of a feel of home where they can cook their own food. So that's just not in the medical world. There's a lot of corporate trainers, a lot of corporate relocations, construction, IT work. A lot of people use the extended stay model. And from the cash flow standpoint, Darren mentioned the cash flow. And it's cash flow that comes earlier than you might have seen in a multifamily offering.
And how does that cash flow actually happen on an asset like this compared to the multifamily, where it maybe take 3 years before we actually start seeing cash flow because of development time frames? If you look at this asset, what typically would take a asset to start performing to distribute cash in the multifamily development would be 2.5 to 3 years. Right? We're looking at build time closer to 12 months, stabilization, meaning we're actually generating cash from revenue from the customers about 60 days. So you're seeing cash flow in month 15, 16. Right. Is where in our multifamily development, 3.5 years, and then sometimes we've sold it by then and we never saw any cash flow. Not bad, but at least we have cash flow starting in 14 or 15 months and not 24, 28, 30 months.
As times get good or get bad, the other thing I like about the extended stay is the granular nature of it. These are weekly or monthly contracts. And if things get better, prices can rise. If things get not so good, prices can be decreased to keep the place occupied. So a little bit about cash flow and a little bit about
a lot of flexibility in what we can do. And we'll even talk about the flexibility like when we exit the asset and why we think this just makes so much sense. Let's go ahead and get into the presentation and kind of get a little more detailed on some of this. You guys can see this is one of the brand's stay apartment suites. This is considered more of the mid to upper range of the 4 different brands that we'll be looking at as we go through the presentation. But let's go ahead and kick it off. First thing here, I always like to show the numbers as soon as I can. For our investors, they always say, hey, what's the return? What's in it for me? We did listen, as I mentioned earlier, and people were looking for cash flow,
right?
But they still wanted that appreciation. And this asset that we've been tracking for a couple of years gave us both. So if you look at the cash on cash, we're looking at an average cash on cash, 14% starting in year 2. We're looking at a multiple of 1.9, so almost a 2x in 5 years and a 16% IRR. So in this example here, 250,000 in. You're looking at just about doubling your money in that 4.5 to 5.5 year time frame. The partners, if you guys haven't stayed at one of these brand partners, you've probably driven by them on the highway. I've stayed at 3 of the 4. They range anywhere from kind of the entry level, mid level, which would be your Wood Spring suites, all the way up to your stay apartment suites, which would be your upper end. Those would work on 2 different demographics. Some companies have one way that they handle their employees and some have another, and some just have a different taste, just a little more upgrades in the stay apartment, but we have something for everybody.
Good, strong partners.
Yeah.
And so what are these extended stay hotels? We've already kind of done a little bit of a primer. They're 10% of the U.S. hotel supply. And this is more of sort of at least in my mind, sort of a multifamily hotel hybrid. It's workforce housing. It operates very similar to multifamily, just with lower operating costs. And it's for the mobile workforce, nurses, IT, we've mentioned it. A lot of people that need a midterm stay, not just a few days. They want to stay where they can cook their own food and feel somewhat at home best they can.
Yeah, a lot of construction too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you go back to that picture, I want to point something out. If you guys look at that, that looks just like an efficiency in any high rise here.
Yeah.
That is a nice, well-appointed hotel room. And somebody could actually live there for several months and not really know any difference.
Yep. That'll cost you $3 a foot on a 1-year lease in Austin.
At a minimum.
So what do we like? A lot of things, but the development efficiency as compared to multifamily. On the timeline, it takes 12 months to build these as opposed to 20 months. Cost-wise, it's $130,000 average to build one of these rooms versus $230,000, as Darren mentioned before, for multifamily. Lease up takes us 2 months to lease up and stabilize these properties as opposed to 6 to 9 months on multifamily. So all those efficiencies decrease time and decrease cost, which puts money in the investors and the owner's pocket. Operationally, similar stuff. Higher day rates than multifamily, reduced costs for staff and amenities, and surprisingly, people stay longer in these places than you would think. A third of the people stay over 3 months, and 2/3 of them stay over a week. So this is really surprising. People sometimes will spend a long time there.
Well, that proves the point that it's workforce housing. People go on job sites and they're there for months on end.
Yeah. These things aren't just a few days. So it's not for the casual visitor.
Not for the weekend lacrosse tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you look at the location of the 6 hotel extended stay portfolio, we have 3 in Texas, 2 in Alabama, and 1 in Georgia. Now, what you're going to notice here is obviously these are all in the Sunbelt states, and we just like that. And I think everybody knows, the Sunbelt states are going to be pretty attractive for the years to come, if not the decades to come. Something I want to point out here, and this is real similar to all of the extended stays that we're doing. I want you to kind of look at the amenities and the industry that's around. If you look at where the extended stay is right there on I-35, right about in the middle of the picture, just to the north of that, you'll see the retail and entertainment. You can actually walk to the Top Golf and the Cinemark. If you look just to the west, over there, you'll see you have an Amazon distribution center. You have manufacturing and distribution. There's a lot of jobs there. To the lower southeast side, you'll see your additional retail, your Starbucks, your Best Buy. I'm going to have Tom point out, being that he's a medical doctor, I'm going to have him point out a little bit of his knowledge and the BSW right below the complex.
Yeah, that BS&W stands for Baylor Scott and White, which is a big hospital system in Texas, and that's where a lot of the medical professionals will work, and they might stay in our extended stay complex. That's a real common thing. Also, if you look to the west, you see all the manufacturing, all the business out there. There are a lot of people that spend weeks at a time for various reasons to these places. For instance, I have a friend who's a corporate trainer. He'll spend a week or two with a company. He likes to stay in these extended stay places. So that's what these are for. They're for people that are staying midterm and want something a little bit nicer, and certainly can't do a year-long apartment lease and don't really want to stay in a hotel. And something I do want to point out, Darren mentioned the amenities that are available near the complex. That's one of the big underwriting things that all of the extended stays do, is they want to have very high walkability scores, very good restaurants and places for them to go. And something that Darren pointed out to me one time, if you look at the box where the star is, that's the two complexes, the two different extended stay hotels with two different brands. Well, those are a wedge from each other. They're on the same plat. They're on the same plot, and they're right next to each other so that they can capture a bigger part of the demographic.
We'll have both of them.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be able to capture that demographic at the mid-level and the upper mid-level.
Right.
So there's something for everybody.
So here's just a little tighter look at the two that are in Waco. We just wanted you to get a snapshot of what this looks like. 87 rooms on the stay apartments and 122 rooms on Woodspring. Different demographic for each. One a little lower scale, one a little mid to higher scale, a midder scale. You can see the costs are a little bit different, but that's over 200 rooms in a place that's really got a lot of industry. You see the costs per room, 116 to 160,000, way below what it costs to build a multifamily apartment.
Yeah, it's something to point out. If you looked at that map and if you looked at this profile of these, you're going to see almost the exact same thing in the Austin project we have, the San Antonio project we have, the two in Alabama. They have the same type of footprint, meaning the industries, the retail, the cost, the number of doors, a lot of similarities in every single one of them we do.
Right on. Good plan. Okay, so a little more numbers here, and I'll try to keep it simple. If you look at the left side and go on the bottom where it says weighted average, if you look at column number 3 where it says comps vintage, I like to joke that those are not the years that the comparables were built. Those are how old the comps are. So the youngest one is 11 years older than our property currently, and the oldest one's 27 years old. So we are comparing to much older properties, and we're going to have a brand spanking new extended stay hotel available to guests to use. So, and if you look now at the comps, the columns 4 and 5 are RevPAR comps. RevPAR is just a term that the hotel industry uses for lease rates, so to speak. And our comparables have 65.47, and our pro forma shows 65.93. So essentially the same revenue on our pro forma. Slightly higher occupancy at 81% versus 77%. And that's been proven by our partners even better than that.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing to point out here is that you've got products that are averaging 18 years in age to our brand new product. That's really, on a revenue perspective, is virtually the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we feel very comfortable in our underwriting and our conservative underwriting.
Yeah.
Oh, over onto the right side, the operating profit margins. This is something I want to point out. We wanted to put this up here showing the resiliency of the asset. Okay. If you look at the operating profit, gross operating profit in 2019, it's at 57.4%. That's pre-COVID. Okay. If you look at it where it is today, It is 57.2%. Thank you, Tom. 57.2%.
Always here to help.
So, but my point being on this is that it weathered the storm. Okay. Yeah. And you're always looking at your what ifs, and we can never underwrite every single thing that can happen. But if you look at how this industry held on and performed and is stabilized in 2.5 years from where it started, it's done a fantastic job. So this is another reason that we really like this asset. And we watched it perform over the past 2 years.
We watched it and studied. We want something that's a little bit more diverse that'll, hopefully stabilize your portfolio if, things get worse for us, if headwinds show up.
This is something I really want to talk to you about as our development partner, Provident Realty Advisors. These guys have been in business over 30 years, have a great track record. We've been doing business with them a little over 4 years now. We have been very choosy about the business that we do with them, but this is one we've gotten really excited about. But if you look at what they've already done in the past couple of years on extended stay hotels, they have 34 of them, 3,800 rooms or keys, as it's called in the industry, and their occupancy is at 86%.
Right.
And if you look at the operator, one of the largest operators, Ambridge Hospitality, which would be like the property management company,
right,
that we have in our multifamily. They would be the same thing. But if you look at Provident, they've done industrial, they've done retail, office, real big in multifamily. And now they've actually started working over the last few years in the extended stay product. One of the investments we just exited with them as their equity partner. Several of you that are probably on this call were part of this one. We had a 55% IRR, a 2.2 multiple in less than 2 years. Now, granted, we were able to capture some of the upside of the market, but even giving that somewhat of a discount, these guys performed. We were excited at what they did, the type of product. You can see they built high quality product, but we worked through them from start to finish. Just exited that one maybe 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago. Strong
nice partners, strong management. We're real happy to be working with them again.
Good guys. So looking at the investment summary, I want to go back to the returns, because really at the end of the day, what are you looking at for yourself? We're looking at a 14% cash on cash, and we have done some very conservative underwriting on that. As I mentioned, the 2x multiple and the IRR of 16%. Those type of numbers in today's market, you're not going to find very many. They're not out there. You and I see 5 deals each a week. Yeah, and we can't find that. And we're in the business, and we look really hard. So if you want to talk a little bit about the exit, but I will mention one other thing about the exit. We have multiple exits, and I don't know if we brought this up earlier, but with a 6 portfolio, with a 6 complex portfolio, you're attracting larger buyers. Okay, that's one. You could also sell these in a one-off, because all 6 of them have different loans on them. So it's not one loan for everybody. So you could sell to a regional group, you could sell to a local group, or you could be selling to an institutional group, or we could refinance it in cash flow.
Yep.
And just hold it for a while.
We could recap. So, and that's a good point. And anybody can put anything in a portfolio. That's why we see all those deals. They always look so rosy. We did the best we could to do this conservatively, but with the multiple exit strategies, that gives us an out if things don't go as we expect.
So just a quick little recap again on the investment return. If you were to put in $250,000, you can see the flow of money. Year 2, 43,000, 35, 33, and then you exit with cash flow and your upside profit. But more or less, you're putting in 250 and doubling your money in 5 years.
Yeah. All right, guys. So as always, if you like what you saw, review the offering materials, consult with your advisors. If you like it, make a commitment. Talk to Robin. We'll send you what you need to invest. Our minimum is $100,000. I know we did show a $250,000 example, so I wanted to make sure everybody knew that. And this is for accredited investors only. Need to contact us? Just email info@presarioventures.com. You want to close this out, Darren?
Well, I can't thank you guys enough, and I will tell you, we're real excited about this. We're going to move forward with this project as we've committed to with our development partner. We've got a great team, the development team, the equity team. It should be just another fantastic property. Give us all another opportunity to look at in 23 that we probably wouldn't have had access to otherwise if we hadn't have done a lot of homework and really worked with our partners over the years and put about 15 years of sweat into this thing. It's starting to pay off. So no, we're excited about this. And I hope you guys join us. And Robin, Tom, Darren, Prima, give any one of us a call. We can answer any direct questions that you have about this opportunity.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.